Hey folks, Chrissy with the Crabapple Cottage. Today I wanted to try something different. I'm going to do a plant spotlight. This is something I'm thinking about doing on a regular basis. As you can see, my garden's in the back. Here on my patio table I have a bunch of different plants. Some of them are annuals. I don't like to plant my annual herbs in my perennial herb garden because I want to be able to take them inside when the weather gets cooler. And then some of these plants are what I would consider house plants. I have a banana, I have a kumquat, a laurel, a bay laurel. So these are things I would bring inside in the winter as well. But I also have here this plant that I'm going to be planting in my garden eventually. I have a spot for it, and I just haven't prepared the bed fully yet. But I did want to talk about this plant because this is a plant that I have been looking for a little while, a few months. And I did find it. It was the only one that they had on stock, and it's a little rough looking. You can see it here. This is the Japanese willow. It's also called the Dappled Willow. I think this is the cultivar Hakuro Nishiki. That's, I believe, the cultivar, or just another name for it. I'm gonna look at my notes here. The botanical name is Salix integra. So this is a willow. It's a shrub. It gets, I think, like 3 to 6 feet tall, and you can keep it smaller by pruning, which I'll probably let it grow to 6 feet because the spot that I want to put it is right outside my bedroom window, and I was looking for something that would give me a little privacy, that would maybe block the afternoon sun because it can warm up the bedroom a little bit, and that would be beautiful to look at from my bedroom window. So this plant doesn't look like very much right now. I got it for under $10 at Home Depot. It was the last one they had. If they had another one in better condition, I would have gotten that one. But since this was something I was looking for, and they had it, and it was within my price range, I went ahead and got it, so we'll see how it does. So why did I get this plant? Well, it's generally considered an ornamental. However, I believe all species of willow are edible and medicinal. And in my garden, I'm trying to focus on edibles and medicinals, specifically perennials. I do have my raised beds in the back that you can see that I fill with annual vegetables and fruits, but the rest of my garden, basically the edges, along the perimeter, I have my perennials. So I have things like fruit trees and berry bushes, strawberry plants, tons of edible medicinal herbs, that type of thing. So this willow will be added to my repertoire. I am trying to learn a little bit about herbal remedies, and I was looking for a willow tree that didn't get huge, that I could also harvest for medicinal purposes. So it is a deciduous shrub. Like I said, it gets about 6 feet tall. It, like most willows, it prefers damp, heavy soil. So it's really good for like a boggy area, near a pond, something like that. The area that I'm going to put it is right by a gutter. I'm actually going to be installing my rain barrel on that gutter, but I will have the ability to basically open the bottom valve of my rain barrel and flood the land around this plant so that it can stay moist, because it does need to stay moist. Now, it's like a willow, so it has these, when it gets larger, it'll have sort of flexible stems that will kind of blow in the wind. Now, the YouTube videos that I've watched show this as just a really beautiful ornamental plant. It does have a variegated leaf. Now, in the springtime, the new growth will have a pinkish tinge on the ends of it. And like I said, this one is not in super great condition. It does have a slight pinkish tinge here on this one, but it's not so great looking right now. But the ones that I've seen online are just absolutely beautiful in the springtime with the pink tips. They almost look like flowers. They're really beautiful. So willows are an emergency food source. I believe you can eat just about every part of the willow, but specifically the young shoots and the inner bark of the bush. I've heard they're bitter, and that's part of the chemical, the medicinal chemical that is in it. They're kind of bitter, but they are there if you are in an emergency situation. So if you're in the woods or nature, whatever, and you find a willow, you can eat it. It just may not be very palatable. As far as medicinal, that is the reason why I did get this plant. All willows contain salicin. It is a compound that was originally used to make aspirin. So willows have been shown scientifically, like I was looking online, and there were a number of peer-reviewed scientific articles that talked about the efficacy of willows as a pain reliever and a fever reducer and an anti-inflammatory. So like I said, the chemical compound salicin was used historically to create aspirin. Now aspirin is made using all artificial compounds that mimic salicin, but salicin was the original source of aspirin, pain reliever. So just like aspirin, it is a natural source, a non-synthetic source of pain reliever, fever reducer, and anti-inflammatory properties. And the benefit of this is it's a lot more gentler on your stomach. Aspirin can irritate the lining of some people's stomachs, and it's not super great for your liver. But salicin, the natural compound found in willows, does not have that problem. So it is much more gentle on your stomach, and it does not do damage to your liver. Like I said, these are not features that are sort of hearsay. These are things that have been shown scientifically. So some herbal remedies maybe don't have the science to back them up. It's more of like folklore, but this one does have the science behind it because, like I said, it was used to make aspirin. Most often you use the bark to make a tea or a tincture. So if you're going to make a tea, you basically just strip the bark off, and then you can boil it in water, let it steep for a little while, and make a tea. And I can't remember, you'll have to look online for the dosage. I don't want to give dosage. I don't want to give medical advice. This is my opinion and my experiences. This is not medical advice. So make sure you check everything out. Maybe touch base with your doctor before you use any plants. But this is how I am going to use this plant. And you can also make a tincture out of either the dry or the raw bark, fresh bark. So basically with that, you just fill a jar or a container about halfway full with the bark. Pour in alcohol, something that doesn't have much of a flavor, like vodka, like a high proof 80-90% vodka. And then you let it steep for several weeks or months, shaking it occasionally, and when you're all done, you can strain out the bark and you have your tincture. And once again, I'm not going to give dosage. You can look online for that. I will post some videos in the description below that will talk about a little bit more how you use this. Don't take my word for it, please. Also, you can use willows. They're flexible stems. You can use those for basket making. Those have been used traditionally that way. And you can also use them to root other plants. There's a hormone, and I don't know if it's aspirin or the salicin or if it's something else, but there is a chemical compound in willow that promotes root growth. And so you can create basically a tea, a willow bark tea, and then I think you soak your cuttings of other plants in that tea, and it will stimulate root growth. I do think that there's, I've heard of people using an aspirin and like putting the aspirin in your vase of flowers and stuff like that. So I think there might be a similar reaction happening there. So I'll link a video to that below as well, because there is a video on using willow bark to use it as a rooting hormone. So that's why I got this. I hope that this plant perks up a little bit. I'm going to be planting it in the ground probably in the next week or two. And I'll keep an eye on it. I'll post an update when it gets a little better, it gets a little fuller. But this is why I purchased this. I had been looking for a willow for some time. There used to be a willow growing down the road. I remember it from like my childhood or my teenage years, and when I started looking for willows around me, I noticed that it had been cut down, and I have been looking and looking. Whenever I drive around, I always look for plants that might have a use, and I haven't seen any willows, so I was on the lookout for a willow tree. I was concerned that so many of the willows get very large, and I don't have a huge backyard, and so I was like, wow, I really want a willow, but I want something that stays small. So this is perfect. It's ornamental, it's beautiful, it stays relatively small. You can keep it very small by pruning. If it does get out of control, you can coppice it, which means you basically cut it down to just above the ground level, and it'll spring back to life. So pretty versatile plant, pretty excited about this. This is the Japanese willow, also known as the Dappled Willow, and botanical name Salix integra. So if you guys are looking for something medicinal, give me check this one out, something small. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks.